Welcome back to the channel. Today we got the Lost Gardens of Heligan, Good Housekeeping UK, which reminds me of in my hometown we used to have this place called the Secret Garden. You go in these bushes and it's this open field. People used to go there and do all type of things. But of course, like most good things in my hometown, they got rid of that. So yeah, with that being said, what's smoking on my dragons? Divine Righteous Almighty Greats Overachieving Never Slacking. We about to see what this is all about. Original link will be in the description. Here we go. Shout out to the Good Housekeeping UK. Beautiful. Jaw dropping already.
Hello, my name's Alistair Moore. I'm the head of Gardens and Estate at the Lost Gardens of Heligan down here in Cornwall. So one of the things that makes Cornwall really special, apart from its very southwesterly location, so it's very temperate, is the fact that we're almost entirely surrounded by sea, other than the border with Devon. So a maritime climate like that brings us softness, brings humidity, but also tends to keep us a little bit warmer than other areas of the country. So this allows us to grow some really interesting plants. And some of those sort of key Cornish garden plants that you see are really a result of that climate. So things like the massive tree ferns we have here and the Chusan palm, the trachycarpus, those little signature plants are all about the Cornish climate. The Lost Gardens of Heligan really function as an estate. So it's not just a garden, we've got woodland and we've got pasture and fields as well. So we're about 200 acres, 100 of which is our pasture for our...
200 acres is so much to keep up with. You got... Round of applause, because you gotta love doing this.
Livestock. We've got about 60 acres of woodland, and then we've got about 40 acres of planted garden. And the jewel in the crown of that garden is really the productive garden. Quite interesting because there are almost two different stories about the garden. One is the historic side to the Lost Gardens of Heligan, which are based around a family called Tremaine who came to Heligan in 1600. They developed what was really a quintessential Cornish country house garden with a large productive garden for fruit and vegetables, as well as extensive pleasure grounds and ornamental plantings. Go forward to 1914 and the First World War, and the gardens begin to change. And they begin to change because the gardeners all left. They all joined up to go and fight for king and country. So by the end of the First World War, there were no gardeners left at the Lost Gardens of Heligan, and the glory days of Heligan Gardens began to fade. And by the 1950s, there was only one gardener left looking after this enormous and beautiful estate. So fast forward to...
I don't understand how one person one person could look after all that. I mean, that it's just so much. It's beautiful though. I know so many people are just grateful when they come here. It's one of the places you just get a good feeling going to. You could just tell from looking even in the video. So imagine being there.
1990, there's been a terrible hurricane at the very start of the year, and hundreds of trees throughout the county have come down. And two men, a chap called John Willis and Tim Smith, hacked their way into the gardens of Heligan to discover a lost paradise. The Mermaid was created in 1997 by brother and sister Pete and Sue Hill, and it was really the second of their works at Heligan. Their first being the Giant's Head, which was created after a massive oak tree was blown down, and the root plate was sort of deemed to be immovable, and they came up with the brilliant idea of creating this sort of Giant's Head. So the Mudmaid was their next work here, and they chose just this perfect spot in the woodland walk for her. And no, she's remained a kind of key component of the Lost Gardens ever since. One of the great things about ferns is that they are actually really adaptable as a group of plants, that there are ferns that can cope quite well with dry shade, but there's also ferns that love damp shade and also differing levels of light. So I would say if you love your ferns, it's worth doing just a little bit of research, thinking about what the specific area you have and the requirements of that area. But almost certainly, you will be able to find a fern for the right spot. For us, the tree fern is really kind of one of the great emblems of the Lost Gardens of Heligan. And its botanic name is Dicksonia antarctica, and it's found naturally in sort of Tasmania and South Australia. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous plant, and one that requires moisture, a level of shade, and really the most important thing is a lack of wind. And I think with ferns, that is probably your first consideration, is putting them on a sunny, dry, windy spot is probably not going to do you any favors. Now, the ravine has been closed for a couple of years now, basically because part of it, there was a bit of a leak that we needed to fix, and global events rather took over. So it's been a slow train coming, but it's really exciting because it's a very special and really quite unique element of the gardens. This pretense that when you're walking through the ravine, you're in an alpine pass somewhere in the middle of Europe. During the time it was being restored, one of our beautiful big oak trees fell down. It has now been incorporated into the ravine itself, and it's looking amazing. So if you come to Heligan, please make sure you pop into the ravine and have a look.
Wow. So, as someone who loves to hike, like that's a passion of mine. I'm always hiking, always walking, winter, spring, summer, fall. Seeing somewhere that has 200 acres and a lot of places to hike, from bridges to looking at sleeping giants. I love that video. It's just right up my alley with a lot of things to see how they kept it so, just took care of it so long. I mean, that's amazing. You know, that means a lot. And I know so many people probably go there annually and have so many memories there. Awesome. The Lost Gardens of Heligan. Beautiful. And Man, that was really good. That was really good. It just honestly gets me in a mood for spring. Obviously, I'm trying not to project myself too far into the future. I tend to do that. But what is it? January. It's already January, February, March. Then we're right back at spring. So I definitely look forward to a lot of hikes, and this for sure got me in a mood more. But with that being said, if you've been to the Lost Gardens of Heligan, let me know your experience in the comments. And shout out to the Good Housekeeping UK. Definitely go subscribe to their channel. Original link in the description, as I stated earlier. And I'll be back with more soon. Much love to you all.